At all times, tracks, trail and highways served humanity as keys to evolution. Empires and civilizations disappeared, centuries-old dust swept capitals and cities, but roads kept on breathing life back into them. Do we really understand how roads revitalized areas hundreds of years ago and how they affect people's destinies today? We go on the Treasures of the Nation expedition to reveal facts about life at the crossroads of antiquity. Modern motorways are very much new, but if a trail is left, it will surely be found even thousands of years later. Watch in this episode why UNESCO entered the Kazakh Kuy in the list of World Non-Material Cultural Heritage. How did steppe storytellers manage to remember and perform tens of thousands of epic lines by heart? Where is the school of real zhyrau located today? Following the roads laid many centuries ago, our expedition will explore some very unusual paths. They're invisible to the eye, although quite notable. They are so significant in our lives that they still influence us even today. This time, the Treasures of the Nation team intends to investigate the musical and poetic art of our ancestors, of which we are rightly proud and which is being increasingly recognized around the world. Where will the roads blazed by the ancient musicians and poets of the Great Steppe bring us? We'll start from Almaty. Abzal, we heard that the Kazakh Kuy was entered in the UNESCO list of World Cultural Heritage. What is your take on the uniqueness of the musical legacy of the Great Steppe as a professional musician and researcher of music? An interesting fact is that the word Kuy means state of mind. So playing and singing such a musical piece, the performer first of all expresses his or her spiritual condition. A professional or an amateur musician singing the Kuy describes what he or she feels and his or her vision of the world around. Indeed, Kuy is a unique phenomenon inherent only in the Kazakhs and possesses an extensive spectrum of musical tools. As of today, the musical treasury of Kazakhstan includes about 10,000 Kuys. Through Kuys, people express their mood, feelings, mental and spiritual condition. And when the harmonious tandem of musical instrument and internal state takes place, often it allows communicating very deep emotional condition. Thus, Kuy represents a philosophical line in musical culture. Speaking of Kuy and its significance for the Kazakhs, one may say that Dombra has always served a spiritual healing tool. Dombra is the queen among all Kazakh musical instruments and is also one of the most widespread instruments. How old is this ancient instrument? Some experts allege Dombra's priority among all string instruments and say that string music spread across the world, starting with Dombra. What do you say? As a matter of fact, yes, scientists keep on discovering new historical and archaeological data about the origins and distribution of this musical instrument and tradition. Historical threads lead exactly to us. What facts do you mean exactly? I mean the archaeological finds, like the same petroglyphs and petroglyphic figures dating back to Paleolithic times. The drawings depict exactly the Kazakh Dombra, how we know it today, and human figures dancing around it. So to some extent, it can be called a totem. How old is this petroglyphic image, for example? It's Paleolithic. Can we say 5,000 to 7,000 years or even older? For sure. Speaking of the Turkic peoples in general, all their musical instruments are similar and thus related to each other. So the Kazakh Dombra is also present in the cultures of other peoples. It might look a little different, but it is still the same instrument. In a broad manner, we are exploring roads as a phenomenon, how they influenced civilization development and how civilization impacted road development. In this case, is there a link between musical art and roads? Of course, musical culture, musical outlook and taste have been always changing. That is, perhaps, there were certain moments of external influence. That is, when some outside motives entered our musical tradition, the same way our music influenced the history and development of other people's cultures. So roads contributed to overall development? By all means. Roads facilitated communications, social development and, of course, music development. Thank you very much. Could you kindly play something for us to illustrate the history with an ancient Kuy about roads, if it is at all possible? Of course, with pleasure. Thank you very much. Really, the Kazakh Kuy touches upon the deepest and most subtle chords of human soul. But how did this phenomenon appear? Why the nomadic musical and poetic art became so well developed? Jibek Tursunov, our scientist that unfortunately passed away not so long ago, said that owing to certain historical economic circumstances, the people of agricultural and cattle-breeding way of living, they were able to develop certain cultural priorities in the course of their historical advancement. Jibek Tursunov thought that musical and poetic art was characteristic first of all of nomadic people. The mobile way of living of the nomads, due to cattle breeding, hunting and military traditions, stimulated their passion for music and poetry. Traveling through the Arabian desert, the British ethnographers of the 19th century were surprised when responding to any question local boys would use rhymed verses. Shokan Velikanov also noticed that it was more inherent in the Turkic peoples, in particular the Kazakhs. The whole steppe was communicating in verses. In addition, the whole steppe was playing music, so this fact poses a lot of questions as to the origins of many modern musical instruments. According to Igor Matsievsky, the greatest Russian music expert from St. Petersburg, singing, especially choral and ensemble singing, is more characteristic of agricultural people. He alleges that in the course of agricultural work, when hands are occupied, be it harvesting or planting, the only thing remaining for people was to sing, and this is exactly how choral singing appeared. In turn, Matsievsky explains the huge number of musical instruments created in the Great Steppe with the ancient hunter way of life of distant nomadic ancestors. In fact, they made the first musical instruments already during the Stone Age, as a rule from animal bones and skins. Finally, the synergy of poetic and musical traditions against the background of nomadic military cult gave birth to a new cultural phenomenon: heroic epic. The military epic tradition was widespread among cattle-breeding tribes and hunter descendants in the Asian pre-glacial zone. Their poetic works aimed to maintain the glorious military genealogy and the feeling of pride, first of all, of their military ancestors. So it turns out that not only Kuy but the steppe epic in general can be rightly considered the non-material heritage of the Kazakhs and nomads at large. What's at the heart of this phenomenon and why is it unique? Are the epic traditions of the Great Steppe still alive? The epic also served as an educational system. Listening to epic songs, children gained access to this sacred knowledge and absorbed the traditional standards of behavior, social ethics, so to say. There were different types of epics: lyrical, fantastic and fairy tale-like, and even household. But the heroic epic, of course, played the most significant historical role, since it described actual historical events and accordingly real historical figures and characters. As a rule, the heroic epic was devoted to the military feats of ancient heroes. So, epic can be considered a method of patriotic and military education to a certain extent? Yes. The storytellers themselves were usually soldiers, commanders, advisors to khans. They were not just singing epic songs, but were the carriers, They were not just singing epic songs, but were the carriers of spiritual and moral knowledge. This function correlated with their high social and public status, so they could influence the overall political scene and even specific historical events. Yes, by all means. They were even said to possess supernatural knowledge and be able to see the future, outcomes of battles and wars. They were truly significant and influential political figures. The size of the steppe epic is very much impressive also. The shortest one of them consists of 20,000 lines. The largest one, the Kyrgyz Manas epic, has 500,000 lines. Epic performances could begin in the evening and continue until morning. It is virtually impossible to remember such a volume of information by heart. The epic singers themselves say that they never try to remember the text, but that it is given to them from above as intimate knowledge. So not anybody could become a storyteller. No, it was hereditary. One had to be chosen for that, so to say. In fact, yes, it was a gift from above. Aliyah, they told us about the overall great impact of our epic tradition on other cultures. How significant it was in your opinion? Well, based on Nemat Kelimbetov's research, traces of our epic find root in very ancient times. For example, the mighty Ye Tonga, that is the 7th century BC, describes the war between Iran and Turan. In even more ancient time, the steppe epic had influenced the establishment of the Iranian collection of anthems known as Avesta. As it turns out, the ancient epic literature of India, or Veda, also originated on the territory of the Great Steppe. Slightly later, the nomadic epic had also affected Europe, where during the Huns era, there appeared the Attila heroic epic. Some of the battles of our ancestors are also described in the Valkyrie epic and the Song of the Nibelungs. The large-scale geographical dissemination of the steppe epic is not accidental. As it has appeared, roads and journeys are the two integral elements of epic tradition. Yes, the storytellers were of course soldiers and military commanders themselves. They were on the road all the time, and so the content of epic songs, as a matter of fact, would revolve around the road. The storytellers were traveling, and this is what they sang about. According to popular legends, even Korkut Ata, the legendary storyteller and the father of Kui, confronting the death itself, was always traveling across the world aboard his white female camel Jalmaya. The place where he finished his journey and found eternal rest is located in Kamakchi district of Kızılorda region. The most surprising thing is that exactly in close proximity of the burial place of the legendary steppe zhyrau, the owl of Joly, the real school of steppe storytellers, is still working. So if we go to Kızılorda, then we will be able to see the present-day zhyrau? Naturally. In fact, there is more than one. The Sirdarya epic tradition includes 3 schools: Aral, Kamakchi and Natai. The mausoleum of Korkut Ata and the Kamakchi school of zhyrau are literally a stone's throw away from each other. Is it by accident that the road and travel were the integral elements of the trial that epic heroes had to undergo? To locate the mysterious school of steppe storytellers and, according to the ancient nomadic tradition, pay tribute to the legendary zhyrau Korkut Ata, our expedition team will follow the path of ancient epic heroes. Southern Kazakhstan is famous for its sacred sites. En route, we arrive in Taraz, the most ancient city on the Great Silk Way, the history of which goes back more than 2,000 years. Investigating the spiritual legacy of our ancestors, by tradition we cannot allow ourselves not to pass by the mausoleums of ancient heroes and honoring their memory. Local modern scientists and traditional steppe spiritual wardens will help us with this task. We are now on the premises of the necropolis of the medieval settlement of Taraz. This is the Karakan's Mausoleum, a monument of medieval architecture of the 11th, 12th centuries. It was reconstructed in 1902, so this is what it looks like after restoration. According to some scientists, the mausoleum was built over the tomb of Shah Mahmud Karakan. In other words, this is the place where one of the representatives of the Karakanid dynasty was buried, although it is not certain who exactly. Thus, Karakan's mausoleum is a conditional name. Nonetheless, this name is rather esteemed among the people and is associated with many legends. He had lived a good and happy life, and one day before his death, called his son to come and see him. He gave him a horsehair and said that in case of grave danger for the state, the son needed to burn the horsehair and then he would come for rescue. Karakan's son, already an old man, decided to light the horsehair not because of any trouble, but just out of curiosity, to see whether his father would come as he had said. So he set the horsehair on fire, and Karakan did come before him with a huge army asking him, "So where are the enemies threatening our state?" He saw that there were no enemies around and said that in that case, an alien people would come and overrun the Karakanids in development. Most likely, if not Karakan himself, but the dynasty for sure had been distinct with wise ruling. Could you tell us, please, how well were road communications developed specifically during the reign of the Karakanids? Al-Maqdisi, an Arab geographer and traveler who lived in the 11th century, testifies that the city of Taraz was highly developed and densely populated in that time. So Karakan indeed greatly contributed to the development of the city and the state. The 11th and 12th centuries are the time of construction of all these mausoleums. Karakan's mausoleum and Aisha Bibi mausoleum including. That was the golden age of medieval architecture, culture in general, arts, trade, etc. Being in Taraz and not visiting the unique monument mentioned by Umit, the mausoleum of Aisha Bibi, would be unpardonable, as it is truly an architectural poem captured in clay. The outside of the mausoleum is decorated with various patterns and ornaments. Its decoration includes 62 different types of terracotta tile. The building is unique because the tiles are not glued or attached to the wall surface some other way, but are packed in between bricklaying very tightly like teeth, so they will never drop out. What year was it built? Scientists claim it was constructed sometime during the 11th, 12th centuries, during the golden time of the Karakanid state. The popular memory has kept a fine legend of the emergence of Aisha Bibi Mausoleum, told to us by the keeper of the place, Shirakshi Yesenbek Kaji Bestaybekulli. Aisha Bibi didn't come here alone. She was accompanied by 40 girls aboard 40 quick horses and her saintly mother Babaja Khatun. So she arrived here with a whole caravan and stopped on the river bank nearby. Later she sent a messenger on a swift-footed racer to Karakan himself. Exactly then, Karakan came back to Taraz with a huge army. There was a severe war going on at that time and he came back home victoriously. When Aisha Bibi saw her messenger coming back with a message, she took her headpiece from the ground and put it on. It happened so that a snake got into it and stung her with its lethal venom. As you can see here in the upper section of the column, there are elements depicting a snake, a cobra, and in the center, images of a steppe flower, a tulip. Snake images are all around it. These images prove the realness of the legend about Aisha Bibi. After being stung by the snake that had crept in her Saukele and realizing her inevitable death, Aisha Bibi asked to perform the wedding ritual with Karakan. Since that time, Karakan, who was only 25 years old then, had remained single until his death at 97. He had expected to meet his beloved wife in the other world. In memory of his love, Karakan built this mausoleum with his own hands. They say since then the spirit of true friendship and eternal love lives here. Moving along the ancient roads of southern Kazakhstan, you inevitably reach the next and perhaps the most important point of spiritual journey for any pilgrim. We can even say that this place represents the primary and the utmost important point of a pilgrim's journey. We mean the shrine that has been #1 for all peoples of the region for a long time, the mausoleum of Hoji Ahmed Yasawi in the ancient city of Turkestan. However, according to the centuries-old tradition, prior to bowing before the ashes of Hoji Ahmed, it is necessary to pay tribute to his teacher, Aristan Baba, who found the final resting place exactly on the way to his student's mausoleum in the village of Shaul-Der. It is thought that once Aristan Baba was an associate of Prophet Muhammad. As the legend has it, the Almighty awarded him longevity only to transfer the persimmon stone bequeathed by Muhammad directly to Hoja Ahmed Yasawi as the successor of the Prophet's tradition. The legend about Hoja Ahmed himself is even more impressive. They say that during his lifetime he was capable of many miracles. But once a person publicly doubted his abilities, for what the governor of the area at that time ordered to tie that person to a tree and burn him. At the very moment of executing the order, Hoja Ahmed suddenly appeared on his flying camel and miraculously carried away the non-believer together with a tree, saving him from the awful death. Yes, the legend looks fantastic indeed. Nevertheless, it is imbued with the greatest feeling of compassion and sympathy. It is not by accident that some scientists claim that exactly this Sufi master managed to finally reconcile the Islamic South and the Tengrian steppe. Exactly thanks to their high consideration of Hoja Ahmed Yasawi's self-sacrifice, the nomads started to sympathize with Islam. Muhammad in Mecca, Hoja Ahmed in Turkestan, goes the ancient Turkic saying, demonstrating the importance of Turkestan as one of the greatest shrines of the Turkic world. Following the same roads that ancient armies strode and the same roads that merchant caravans plied, thousands of pilgrims used and still use to this day to come to Turkestan, honoring the legacy of this saintly place. Having received blessing from the spirit of the great teacher, the Treasures of the Nation expedition went on to Kızılorda, overcoming the last phase of our epic journey. There, in the sacred homeland of the legendary zhyrau Korkut Ata, we were anxiously awaiting the meeting with Ruslan Akhmetov, Kızılorda zhyrau representing the Kamakchi epic school. Perhaps he will tell us where the mysterious school of steppe storytellers is located. Ruslan, we heard that the Kazakh epos and epic art in general originated here in the Sirdarya Valley. True or false? The Kazakhs living in different regions would create their independent zhyrs or songs. In Mangistau there is Aday school. In Semirechye we can refer to the zhyrs of Kenen and Jambul schools. The same way, the Sirdarya area also had its own zhyrau school that has been operating since most ancient times till this day. The Sirdarya school of zhyrau art dates back to the time of Kokit Ata. His köys, zhyrs and words of edification and wisdom still live in our national memory. In the wide steppe of the Sirdarya Valley, from the Aral Sea to the Karatau Mountains, multiple epic art schools worked. Masterful singers are continuing to bring up subsequent generations of young zhyrau. It is an often case when this tradition is transferred in a straight line from father to son. Is it possible to visit the Kamakchi school that Aliya Sabirova talked about today? It turned out easier than we thought, as it is located directly on the way to Kokit Ata Memorial. The school is headed by Serik Jaksagulov, a famous zhyrau. Bedas Rustembekov, the son of a well-known Rustembek zhyrau, is also teaching at the school and continues to develop the köy legacy. I have no doubt you will enjoy your visit to the school. Well, would it be possible to hear a zhyr? They say it's easier for a zhyrau to sing than to talk. Across the world spread Kokit's fame at once, when Kobuz finished emanating pleasure with its voice. Not ever will the saintdom of my people fade, converging from the cradle with the köys. The Sirdarya River is the homeland of direct followers of Kokit Ata. Would you like to hear a couple of works by famous Sirdarya zhyrau?
Deseng söyleyene, köңніңді сөзбен делбегені, жезбейді алым мен нарышаң, қосыңды артсаң жетелеп, елпеңдеп неге ермегені. Көптен бері сағынып, бас қосқан соң сіздермен, барымды бүгін сермегені, ықласың менен тыңдасаң, сөзімді пұлдап несіне, бойымды балап кернегені.
We have finally reached the goal of our expedition and our dream came true. We found the zhyrau school. So, Serik, this is the zhyrau school. This is the place. Yes, zhyrau school is what the people call us. In October 2016, we opened it officially as the House of Zhyrau, named after a famous zhyrau and composer Koshene Rustembekov, to commemorate his 60th anniversary. Emphasizing the most ancient epic traditions of Sirdarya area, in Kızıl Orda they say the land of Sirdarya is the land of epic. The main aim of the House of Zhyrau is to promote and disseminate the epic art of our ancestors among the young generation. Already today the work of this unique educational establishment bears notable fruits. One of the reasons for pride is that in December 2016, Aray Onga Kezi, a student of our school learning Tazbegen Zhyrau tradition, the student of Zauria Karibaeva, was invited to Almaty by Mr. Baybek, the city mayor, and was presented a dombra by the president. She's only 8 years old. 8 years old? Yes, our 8-year-old zhyrau performed the song Love Your People, the Head of the People, written by Aidos Rakhmetov. The head of state was very happy, presented her with a dombra, blessed and wished her luck in her work and life. The students from Joly can also boast of certain success internationally. Tokjan Bakitova and Malika Aldamzharova participated in a large-scale annual international Mugam festival in Baku and took first places there. So it turns out that except your Kamakchi school, there is no other zhyrau school in the country. At least we didn't hear of another one. Perhaps this is what makes us unique. As they say, the land of Sirdarya is the land of the epic. The Kamakchi and Joly schools alone brought up hundreds of zhyrau. Based on the research by Ali Akbar Jumatayev, before 1965, only the kin of Kete included 117 akins and zhyrau. Mind you, this is only one of the kins among dozens. The total number of akins and zhyrau from Kamakchi district exceeds 1,000. Some being the first formal house of zhyrau in Kazakhstan, the school is indeed the only such place in the country. Well, thank you very much. Would it be possible for the guys to perform something for us? Our Bida Saga will soon go to a festival. He is currently in the aul to give a masterclass to the children. Our schoolgirls, Meruat and Malika, will take part in it. Okay, let's enjoy it. I will now perform Temer orders by Sholayak Omar, and then we'll go in turns.
Dili sağın suudun arnasında o edilsiz bolat semsir almasınday pay etme öne boya ötürük aytip şalası kalmaz bir gün jarmasılmay.
To learn this song, you need to rehearse not half a day and not a full day. About 2 weeks. To get used to the melody and rhythm, the performer needs to rise to its level and know the lyrics perfectly. Okay, and now could I ask you to perform something from the previous lessons? One temer will be enough. Meruat, please. Excellent. Great performance. This is exactly the manner to play it. Please be persistent in perfecting your skill. We'll go back to this episode at every lesson. Malika, now it's your turn. The expedition has achieved its target. The only thing left to do is to thank the spirit of Kokit Ata for allowing us an opportunity to follow the roads of ancient storytellers and finding the school of zhyrau. He and many other inspired steppe poets created this tremendous and unique world of the epos. It seemed it took us a mere couple minutes to travel from the zhyrau school in the aul of Joly to the great monument built to commemorate the great father of the epic, esteemed by all Turkic peoples. They say that before he was born, the whole world plunged into tension. The blue sky overcasted with dark clouds. A furious wind was blowing for 3 days and 3 nights. But when Kokit Ata finally appeared in this world, the nature calmed down. Therefore, noting those days when all the steppe people were scared, the seniors decided to call the newborn Kokit, which translates as fear or frighten. Another translation of Kokit from the classic Turkic language means protect happiness. He was born in the city of Jankent in the 5th or 6th century, became a famous storyteller and shaman, and served as the chief vizier to 3 khans. Kokit devoted all his life to ensuring happiness and well-being of his people and was sainted during his lifetime. When people were passing by the grave of Kokit Ata, it seemed that the wind itself was making the sounds of Kobe's curs. Having learned about this, architect Jibek decided to create this grandiose memorial where the steppe wind itself creates the eternal sound of Kobe's. The acoustic diaphragm creating the effect of playing Kobe's was built by our famous physicist, academician Sovet Isatayev. Thanks a lot for the story, and now let's go and have a look. Of course, you go there and let your pure thoughts be heard. This truly epic place, with the sounds of Kobe's casted by the wind in the background, is the best location to recollect the legend of Kokit. When death, pursuing the famous zhyrau, at last drove him into deadlock, Kokit made a Kobe's and started playing it. Death could not take him while he was playing. Of course, he knew that it was impossible to beat death, but he kept on playing and did not release his bow until full exhaustion. He fought death until the very end. What does the steppe epic teach us? What did the road lead us to this time? What is the essence of the invisible but absolutely tangible wealth bequeathed to us by our ancestors? Be true and stand by your close ones. Appreciate the power of your ancestors and use it intelligently. Sympathize and help the lost souls, and fight for life till the very end.